and Assalamualaikum. We are from Group 5. So the topic for our video is about legislation on the prevention and eradication of sexual harassment in the workplace. My name is NURAISHAH binti ALOHA. I'm going to explain for the introduction and the purpose of the legislation. So what is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment is any unwelcome sexual behavior that a reasonable person could anticipate may make another person feel offended, intimidated, or humiliated in that situation. Harassment can occur in many different social settings such as the workplace, home, and school. Harasser or victims can be of any gender. So, what is sexual harassment in the workplace? Sexual harassment in the workplace is any unwanted, unacceptable, and inappropriate conduct of a sexual nature that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive working environment. This behavior can be verbal, non-verbal, or physical and can occur between any individuals in the workplace, regardless of their position, status, or gender. Next, according to Section 2, Subsection G in the Employment Act 1955, sexual harassment is defined as any unwanted conduct of a sexual nature, whether verbal, non-verbal, visual, gesture, or physical, directed at a person which is offensive or humiliating or is a threat to his well-being, arising out of and in the course of his employment. Next, what is the legislation on the prevention and eradication of sexual harassment in the workplace? To address the issue of sexual harassment in the workplace, Malaysia has implemented several legislative measures. The legislation include the Employment Act 1955, specifically Section 81A to 81G, which outline the responsibility of employers and the rights of employees in dealing with sexual harassment complaints. In addition to Employment Act, there is also supplementary guidelines, which is the Code of Practice on the prevention and eradication of sexual harassment in workplace, that was introduced in 1990. There are four purposes of the legislation on the prevention and eradication of sexual harassment in the workplace. The first one is protect employees from sexual harassment. The primary purpose is to protect all employees from any form of sexual harassment in the workplace. This includes implementing measures to prevent sexual harassment and providing mechanisms for employees to report and address incidents. The second one is ensure a safe and respectful work environment for all employees. The legislation seeks to cultivate a working environment of mutual respect and safety where all employees are treated with dignity. So all employees work in a safe and respectful environment and can perform their duties without feeling uncomfortable due to unwanted sexual behavior. Next is provide clear guidelines and procedures. It establishes clear guidelines and procedures for employers and employees to follow in cases of sexual harassment. This includes outlining the responsibilities of employers and employees and providing a structured process for filing complaints and conducting investigation. Lastly, to reduce the rate of sexual harassment in the workplace, this legislation can reduce the number of sexual harassment cases by being an effective tool in reducing incidents of sexual harassment in the workplace.
Physical sexual harassment. This involves any unwanted physical contact or advance of a sexual nature. Moreover, unwanted, uninvited, or inappropriate touching, petting, hugging, or other physical contact. For instance, a supervisor persistently hugs a subordinate without a consent, despite the subordinate expressing discomfort and requesting the behavior to stop. This is the first day of Miss Adira come to work, feeling happy and excited. On Miss Adilah's first day at work, Mr. Ahmad greeted her with a hug. She feels uncomfortable but doesn't say anything, thinking it might be one-time gesture. Over the next few weeks, Mr. Ahmad continued to hug Miss Adillah every morning. Miss Adillah started feeling anxious and tried to avoid Mr. Ahmad, but he found a way to corner her and initiate the hug. Miss Adillah eventually tells Mr. Ahmad that she feels uncomfortable with the hug and prefers a handshake or no physical contact at all. Despite her clear communication, Mr. Ahmad dismisses her discomfort, perhaps joking about it or downplaying her feeling, and continue his behavior. Miss Adilah's discomfort grows, leading to stress and decreased productivity. She starts dreading coming to work and consider looking for another job. Verbal sexual harassment. Verbal sexual harassment include unwelcome comment, jokes, or remarks of a sexual nature. For instance, a colleague make a repeated sexual explicit joke or comments about another colleague's appearance, which create a hostile environment for the targeted individual. During the meeting with Mr. Ali, Miss Adillah and her friend at work. During a team meeting, Mr. Ali made a comment about Miss Adillah's appearance, saying, "You look really hot in that dress today." Miss Adillah felt uncomfortable but tried to brush it off as a one-time incident. Ali continued to make similar comments such as, "I can't concentrate with you looking so sexy." He also told sexually explicit jokes in her presence, often directing them at her. Miss Adillah started to feel anxious and stressed about coming to work. She told Mr. Ali directly that his comments and jokes are making her uncomfortable and asked him to stop. Despite her clear communication, Mr. Ali dismisses her discomfort, perhaps laughing it off or saying she's too sensitive. Miss Adillah's discomfort grows, leading to stress and decreased productivity. She starts dreading coming to work and consider looking for another job. Other colleagues might also feel uneasy, affecting the overall work environment. Non-verbal sexual harassment. Non-verbal sexual harassment encompasses gesture, facial expression, or display of sexual suggestive material that are unwelcome and offensive. An example could be a male employee consistently staring at a female coworker in a suggestive manner, making her feel uncomfortable and intimidated. Over the few weeks, Mr. Chan continues to stare at Miss Noor in suggestive manner whenever they are in the same room. He also made lewd gestures such as licking his lip and winking at her. Mr. Chan also has sexually suggestive image on his phone where Miss Noor can easily see them. Psychological sexual harassment. Psychological sexual harassment involves behaviors that degrade or humiliate an individual based on their gender or sexual orientation. This could include spreading malicious rumors about a colleague's sexual activity or orientation to undermine their professional reputation.
Tak sanggup lagi aku mengenang kisah lalu.
Under Sections 81A Employment Act 1955, for the purpose of this part, anyone can make a complaint of sexual harassment, whether it is by an employee against another employee, by an employee against any employer, or by an employer against an employee. Today, I'm going to discuss how to effectively implement legislations on the prevention and eradication of sexual harassment in workplace. Let's break down the key steps to ensure create a safe and respectful environment for everyone. Step 1. Understanding legal requirement. Firstly, it's crucial to thoroughly understand local law and regulation concerning sexual harassment. This includes knowing what constitutes harassment and responsibility as employer and the procedure for handling complaints. Step 2. Developing a sexual harassment policy. Next, need to develop a clear and comprehensive policy that explicitly prohibits sexual harassment. This policy should define harassment, provide example, outline how to report incident, and specify consequence for offender. It's important that every employee is familiar with the policy. For the step 3, training and education, we'll conduct regular training session for all employees, including manager, on sexual harassment prevention. This training will cover what constitutes harassment, reporting procedure, the consequence for offender, and the right of those who report harassment. Step 4. Establishing reporting mechanism. Establish multiple channels for reporting harassment incident. Employees should feel comfortable reporting to HR personnel, designated officer, or anonymously. It's essential that these reporting channels are well publicized and easily accessible. And for step 5, investigation procedure, will develop clear procedure for investigating harassment complaints. Investigation will be prompt, impartial, and conducted by trained personnel. Both the complaint and the accused will be treated with confidentiality and fairness. Step 6, enforcement and discipline. If an investigation substantiates a complaint, organization will take appropriate disciplinary actions against the perpetrator. This action will be consistent with the severity of the offense and outlined in their policy. And next is step 7, monitoring and review. Regularly review and evaluate the effectiveness of sexual harassment policy and procedure. Feedback from employees will help to identify any areas for improvement and always keep update the policy as needed to reflect change in legislations or organizational needs. And the fourth step 8, promoting a respectful workplace culture. Foster a workplace culture that promotes respect, inclusion, and zero tolerance for harassment. This leadership team will lead by example, demonstrating their commitment to preventing sexual harassment and supporting a victim. Step 9, legal compliance. Need to ensure that all actions and policies comply with relevant laws and regulations, always stay updated on any change in legislation that may affect this approach to preventing and addressing sexual harassment. And for the last step, step 10, documentations and record keeping. Lastly, maintain accurate record of all harassment complaint, investigation and action taken. Documentation will help organization track pattern of behavior, ensure accountability and defense against potential legal challenge. By implementing this step, it creates a workplace where every employee feels safe, respected and valued, and can uphold legal standards, foster a positive culture and ensure that sexual harassment has no place in organization. Under the Sections 81B of the Employment Act 1955, the inquiry into complaints of sexual harassment in the workplace involve the following steps. The first one, receipt of complaint. When an employer receives a complaint of sexual harassment from an employee, they are legally obligated to take it seriously and initiate an investigation formally. Hence, inquiry procedure. The inquiry into the complaint must adhere to procedures set by the minister. This typically involves gathering evidence, conducting interviews with relevant parties, and documenting all findings accurately. Moreover, time frame. Must complete the inquiry within a reasonable time frame to ensure swift resolutions of the complaint, usually as outlined in internal policy or within legal guidelines. Additionally, confidentiality. Throughout the inquiry process, confidentiality is paramount to protect the privacy and dignity of both the complainant and the accusers. Information should only be shared on a needs-to-know basis. Next is decisions and action. Based on the finding of inquiry, we'll make and determinations regarding the validity of the complaint. If sexual harassment is substantiated, and take appropriate disciplinary actions against the perpetrator in accordance with organization policies and legal requirements. Furthermore, the appeal. If the complainant is not satisfied with the outcome of the inquiry, they have the right to appeal the decisions to the Director General of Labour. This provides a safeguard to ensure fairness and accountability in process. And next, the Director General role. The Director General will review any appeal submitted and may direct to conduct further investigation if deemed necessary. Their oversight helps ensure compliance with the law and fairness in handling complaints. And lastly, compliance throughout this process must ensure that all actions comply fully with the Employment Act 1955 and any other relevant regulation related to sexual harassment. This includes respecting the right of employees and adhering to legal standards at all. As you can see, this is the code of practice on the prevention and eradication of sexual harassment in the workplace. This code practice used for service guidelines for sexual harassment cases.
Hi, Miss Aisyah. Hi, Miss ADILLA. Can I talk to you for a moment? Of course. Please sit. So, what is in your mind? Well, I have been feeling uncomfortable lately. I'm really sorry to hear that. Can you tell me more about what's happening? Sure. It started about 2 weeks ago. Mira from the SEAL team made a few comments about my appearance that made me uncomfortable. At first, I brushed it off, but then it continued.
Okay, in a situation like this, it's best to clearly communicate with Mira that her behavior is inappropriate and unwelcome. Would you prefer I handle this confidentially on your behalf?
I think I feel more uncomfortable if you could handle it.
Absolutely, Dina. I'll speak with Mira and make it clear. I'll document our conversation and ensure that we take steps to prevent any further incidents. By this issue, I will impact these cases by Section 81 under Employment Act
1955.
Thank you, Aisha. I really appreciate your support in handling it.
You're welcome, Wanda. It is important to speak up about these things. If you need anything else comes up, please don't hesitate to reach out.
I will. Thank you.
Alright, I'll follow up with you after I've spoken with Mira.
The Employment Act 1955 of Malaysia has undergone several amendments to address the issue of sexual harassment in the workplace more effectively. This analysis will evaluate the extent to which the legislation achieves its purpose of preventing and eradicating sexual harassment in the workplace. Legal framework in Malaysia. Employment Act 1955. This act governs employment practices in Malaysia, including provisions on sexual harassment. Section 81A to 81G specifically deals with sexual harassment. Employers are required to investigate complaints and take appropriate action. Next, we move on to effectiveness of legislation, provisions and protections. Employers must investigate complaints promptly, and employers are mandated to have procedures for dealing with sexual harassment complaints. The challenges in enforcement: firstly, underreporting due to fear of retaliation or stigma, inconsistent application and enforcement of policies, and lack of awareness among employees about their rights and the complaint process. The case of Rajasegaran Krishnan versus Pasir Gudang Edible Oil Sinar Berhad is a notable legal precedent in Malaysia concerning sexual harassment in the workplace. Rajasegaran Krishnan, the plaintiff, was an employee at Pasir Gudang Edible Oil Sinar Berhad. He filed a lawsuit alleging that he had been sexually harassed by his supervisor, seeking damages for the harassment he endured. The case was significant because it highlighted the legal framework surrounding sexual harassment in Malaysia. The court examined provisions under the Employment Act 1955, which includes protections against sexual harassment in the workplace. The court ruled in favor of Rajasegaran Krishnan, acknowledging that he indeed been subjected to sexual harassment by his supervisor. The decision underscored the employer's responsibility to provide a safe working environment free from harassment and discrimination. For the impact, this case served to raise awareness about sexual harassment issues in Malaysian workplaces and emphasize the importance of enforcing existing legal protections. It also highlighted the need for employers to implement policies and procedures to prevent and address sexual harassment effectively. Sexual harassment in the workplace is a serious issue globally, including Malaysia. While specific current statistics might not be readily available, it's known that cases of sexual harassment can be underreported due to various reasons, including fear of retaliation, stigma, and inadequate support systems. National law does address sexual harassment under the Employment Act 1955 and the Penal Code, but enforcement and reporting can vary. Overall, Rajasegaran Krishnan versus Pasir Gudang Edible Oil Sdn Bhd is significant in nation legal history as a case that helped shape understanding and enforcement of laws against sexual harassment in employment settings.